Good evening. Welcome to the Hudson Area Library's first live history room on Zoom, hosted by Gary Sheffer. He's a member of our Library Board of Trustees and waving to you, and he's chairman of our History Room Committee. My name is Brenda Schufelt, and I am the History Room Coordinator. So the Hudson Area Library History Room houses a collection of historical items from the city of Hudson and the towns of Greenport, and Stockport, as well as Columbia County. We also hold a monthly local history speaker series that most of you know about at the library. It's currently on Zoom, as well as this video podcast, History Room on Zoom. The mission of the History Room is to acquire, preserve, and make accessible to the public the history of Hudson, Greenport, and Stockport, as well as Columbia County at large. We are excited to host this event because the history of Shantytown, or the Furgary, as it's most often known, is a part of Hudson's rich history as a river town. Our purpose with this program is to inform people about the history of this fishing village and its rich past, and to highlight the relevance of this history for today and for the future. This evening is an examination of history, including the quite affecting oral history of one man for whom Shantytown is a definitive part of his life. There will be a question and answer following Gary's interview, during which you are welcome to put questions in the chat for Leo to answer. And before we begin, Tina Leesom, our administrative assistant, will read a condensed version of the result of a recent History Room request on Shantytown that we received for a walking tour of Hudson, so that any of you who aren't familiar with maybe the very early history of Shantytown can get familiar with that. Tina?
Thank you, Brenda, and welcome to everyone who is joining us tonight. So most locals are familiar with the fishing shacks in the North Bay area of Hudson at the end of Dock Street, just north of the Kite's Nest's River City Garden. But many do not know the history of these shacks and how far back they go. The North Bay area was part of the 1662 land patent purchased by the Van Hosen family from the Mohicans. Over time, there have been various businesses on that land, including grist mills, slaughterhouses, and tanneries. The first Shantytown shacks were constructed in the 1880s and grew through the middle of the 20th century when they functioned as sites for shad, sturgeon, and herring fishing. Active use of Shantytown continued into the 21st century until the city decreed that the shacks could no longer be used. The most will be demolished. A project to restore a few of the shacks and highlight their historic use is planned for part of the City of Hudson's 2017 New York State Downtown Revitalization Initiative grant. Hudson's Shantytown was known for its shad fishing enterprises, which were important in sustaining local families through the Great Depression and World War II. Furthermore, Shantytown is now one of the few surviving shad fishing sites, and as such represents an important cultural and economic phenomenon of life along the Hudson River. Consequently, Shantytown has been deemed a site eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. Daria Merwin, co-director of the Cultural Resource Survey Program of the New York State Museum in Albany, and Linda Mackey, a historic preservation specialist, have written that Shantytown is the tangible remains of a traditional way of life that is rapidly disappearing, which represent a time when sturgeon and shad were abundant in the Hudson River and people made their livelihoods fishing the river and selling their catch on the shore. The library's program tonight will concentrate on the mid-20th century when Shantytown's shad fishing culture was at its height, and on the families who made it and their lifestyles during this time. And next up are Gary Sheffer and Leo Bauer.
Thanks, Tina and Brenda. And hello, everyone. Glad so many folks could make it tonight for this conversation with Leo Bauer. I would say no one knows more about Shantytown's past or really cares more about its future than our guest, Leo Bauer. He's a longtime area resident, and he spent large parts of his childhood at Hudson's historic river edge fishing community. So Leo, welcome to the History Room on Zoom.
Thank you.
So let's start. We're going to start this, Leo, this conversation by watching a video that Brenda took, I believe, and Tracy Robinson, our program director at the library, of with a visit with you down at the Shantytown over the past week or so.
Okay. I'm Leo A. Bauer. I grew up down on Front Street, and this is my playground. I have a picture where my friend took all the shanties out and opened up the bay. It's gorgeous. It looks,
Wow.
When you're at the top of that hill, it makes it a whole different thing. And everybody be happy because all the shanties will be gone. We'll go over here because I want to show you the shanties that we want to save. And they're in good shape too. Very good. It's in bad shape. It's getting worse and worse.
Is that?
This one was my father's. That one was my
Leo.
father's, and the other one was my father's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that slated to be torn down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That's number one. I said on the page.
Okay.
Somebody got to put garbage somewhere. And this is where we always had our floats and everything. See, my catwalk is there, and I'd have the walks all the way out. They float up and down, and I always kept my boat out. This one they don't want to save because it's a new building.
Okay.
It's the newest one down here, but we want this one for a museum.
Yeah.
And that's what we want this one for a museum.
I think that's the
It's
largest.
a very big place, and it's got all the rooms. You said to put some windows in where the things are, and it'd be nice because I think children need to understand what the river is and the goodness of it. People fishing and doing things that children should do today instead of doing this all day long. Yeah. I don't know how their fingers don't fall off. Yep. And them two out there, they can't do nothing to it because they can't go in the bay and touch them. Yeah.
The green, and then the one
The
that's
green
totally
one,
fallen
the green
in.
one, Shipper loves because that is old. Yes, it is. I mean, the eagle. What I say? Hawk. An eagle. What's he?
You gotta take him away, Leo.
Oh, he landed right there. Do I see him?
Yeah.
See him right there?
head.
See this bush, this last bush? Can you see him?
Yep.
Yep, there he is. So awesome. Right across from the boat launch is a big old nest up in a tree.
Oh.
Gorgeous. You can watch the young ones pop their head out when they're doing it now. Yep. I'm so happy when the eagles came back.
I know.
They're so gorgeous. The inside of this shed. This is my favorite one. Which it is. See what happened here? Look at the tree in the corner. Wow. Ain't that cool?
Wow.
Yep. This, we got all this given to us because we're going to reinforce underneath. Oh, wow. All the glasses, they busted out all that beautiful bay window. People, I don't know why they destroy everything. That's why I put them boards up there. They busted that whole window out. Every time I come, I said, my friend said to me today, he said, Leo, why you keep doing? I said, because I love this place. And people agitate me in that because I don't know why they got to destroy things.
You know, in my opinion, why? They don't see it as
I see it.
Yes, but they also don't understand, they haven't been educated about the fact that some of it's going to be saved. So they see it as falling down, so they take it down further.
We used to drive the boat right up inside there when it was high tide and stuff.
Oh, nice.
And that's how we had the fishing nets out on the other lawn. Mm-hmm. But we have old pictures, which I'll show you in a few minutes, of where the net was in the back of the place when the people before us, before my father bought the place, and they did all the fish there. Because like I said, herring and shad fed a lot of people during the war.
Right. And during the Great Depression, you told me the other day.
I like shanty though. I like it. Yeah.
And they're not planning to save it because it's newer.
This is a newer one. On the paper, when you get a chance, you'll look through it and it'll tell you which ones that they favored most. Matter of fact, the one they favored most was my package. Because of the back doors and how it opened up and how we used it. And years ago, those back doors opened up on that one. and he used to have a stairway over in there, and he used to walk up and go inside.
Nice.
Chisel did. Yep. Chisel Bryant. Tough
All
old
right.
man, another tough old man.
Oh, you were going to show us where the dock was?
Well, the dock
original?
is the other dock. I thought you was talking, but you were talking about those type of docks.
No,
This is
yeah.
this is a dock on the waterfront side.
Yeah, that's what I wanted
Yeah,
to
okay.
see
Yeah, I'll
also.
show you.
I want to know everything, Leo.
It's all right.
Tell me everything.
I'm good with that.
I know you are. You've got it all there,
Yeah.
too.
More nastiness.
I want to know how to clean a shad.
Well, you got an idea, even though it was kind of shaky, you got an idea of what we're talking about and the site we're talking about. So I'm going to ask Leo some questions and have a conversation with him, and then we'll open it up to questions from our viewers. All right, so as I say, I'm going to ask Leo a few questions, and then we're going to open it up. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'll read them for you, and we'll put Leo through his paces here. So, so Leo, first I want to ask about you. You know, you grew up on Front Street in Hudson, and Shantytown was an important part of your early life, a place for you to connect with your father. What time period are we talking about?
Well, we moved down to 45 North Front Street in the first part of the 1960s. And not long after we moved there, then my father left. Why? I don't even know the answer to that. But what happened was, so we didn't see him and that, but the people around us was one of the greatest neighborhoods around, because it was all different nationalities. People got along well. The Mice family upstairs had a cabin down there. Art and her family had a cabin down there. And I think because my father still went down there, and that's how he got to liking the shanties. So he brought his shanty off of Ernie Koulis, and that's how he got his shanty.
And you, but through the shanties, you got to reconnect with your dad down there,
Yes.
is that right?
What happened, because he had the shanty down there when I was around 15, because remember, they tore Front Street down. They made urban renewal. So I didn't get to see my father until everybody got evicted out of there, and we moved up street. And then I got to go down to the river, and then I connected with my father. And I was around 14 or 15 years old, which it was good, because, you know, when your families break up, it's kind of hard in that. But my father was a good man, and I don't know the history in that, but he had a lot of good things that he taught us, because he taught us that be a giver in life and not a taker in life, and you always do well.
That's
And
a
that
good
was his
one.
philosophy.
That's
you
a
know?
pretty good one. That's a
Yeah,
pretty good
so
one.
that's what me and my brother, we live by that, because it's a good philosophy to do that. And so once I got to do, and then he got into the fishing part with Mikey Ware. And Mikey Ware was a fisherman on the river. I didn't know much of his history, but he taught us how to do the seine net and how to fix it and mend it and to go out. So so that's how we got into the fishing.
Leo, how many shacks were there at that time? Was it as many as there are today, or
17, let me see, 16, 16, let me see, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, I think, original
Okay.
shacks. The ones out in the water was the Mice family, and eventually they fell in because no one took care of them no more. So,
Okay.
and that's why. And then Peter and the rest of them, they made the lockbox, the newest one with the tin roof that we would like to make into a museum, and that for
Okay.
young people to go to. Yeah.
So this must have been a fun place to be for a young person, right? It's sort of,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Oh
so
yeah.
what's your favorite memory of that period?
Going out, going with the big nets. That's what's a big thrill to be able to pull in the net and over hundreds and hundreds of fish in the net. And I mean, cleaning them afterwards wasn't the fun part, but you know, and what people don't probably think about, it's a lot of work, because you got to haul them in, then you got to scale them, then you got to fillet them, and the people love the shad roll, like the Tina was talking about in that a while ago, about how the shad provided for a lot of people, especially during World War II, because it was a poor man's food. Because
Right.
you remember, people didn't have a lot. So they'd come down to the shanties and buy the fish from the people that was fishing down there,
So
which I
this,
didn't know all them.
so
Yeah.
this is, you're gonna be able to tell from my questions, Leo, that I'm not a fisherman. I don't know a lot about fishing. But so this is you're fishing for shad, herring, that
Shad,
kind of thing.
herring, yeah, and stripers. The
Okay.
sturgeon wasn't there when I was there. People before me, like Mike and them, they fished the sturgeon, but that's, that's probably, that was in the 40s,
Okay.
way before my time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you use a net, you use, that North Bay area, you've got the railroad bridge there, Leo,
Yep.
right? So you
Yep.
had to have small boats to get out in the
Yeah,
river, right?
we had, my father had a 16-foot tin boat, and we made a wooden cuddy that come up on the side, and we put that on the front. So when he backed up, I'd be the shoreline and I'd keep the rope, and he'd back up, and then we drift all the way down on Athens side. You couldn't do it on Hudson side because you always had to worry about boats going up and down, the big boats.
Okay.
So, and when the corks went down, then you knew he'd pull in, and then we get all the fish and put it in a bucket. We could only take so many because that's all we could, handle at a
Yeah.
clip of a day, and that's so.
Yeah. And then you took them back and Shantytown and processed them there?
Don't process them in that.
And-
Yep.
and
Process.
so did your dad, was it for most of the people in the Shantytown, Leo, was it a commercial operation? I think you
No,
said your
No,
dad worked at Atlas too, right?
Atlas. Well, he was retired from the Atlas because remember the Atlas closed up.
Oh, right,
Because
right. Yep.
yeah, so that was around that time period and that too. So he was, he had time to spare and that. And like I said, it was me, my uncle Bobby, and Leo Bernacchi Sr. used to go out with us and that. So we always you had to have 3 people, so you couldn't go just 1 or 2 in that because you had to have the people in that. The fish itself, my father took a Coca-Cola machine, if you remember the old round ones,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and we made it into a smoker, and that's what we did, and that's how we smoked it. And if older people that are in the audience, if they ever remember the old Crocs that used to have in that, and a lot of people don't know, and we put the fish down in that, you had sugar, salt, and molasses, and you put it down in the brine, which they call the brine, and you put it, and then you put a plastic over it. I don't know if a lot of people, like I said, knows the big Crocs. I mean, they're real big, and that's what we used to do. And then as time goes, we put it on the racks, we smoke it, and then, you can only do it so many times in a brine, then you had to change it and do it in that. And everybody used to come down, and my father would sell a half of shad for $1.50, and which wasn't a lot of money. My
Right.
father did it because he enjoyed your company. That's what he enjoyed.
Yeah. And you said, we were talking the other day, he'd give you a soda to go with it for free, right?
I like that. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
So,
Yeah.
so what you're saying is most of the people, this wasn't a commercial fishery.
No,
It was, did people use it to put food on their own table, I assume, too?
yeah, well, and that too. And a couple older people that remembers going down there in their childhood and getting fish for their families, and that they do remember that.
Okay.
But that was a nice thing that they remember doing that. But like I said, there was a lot of different fishermen that were there that I didn't know, like Brownie, Mikey well, and he knew through my father when we was working on the nets. And there's quite a few different people, but most of them all didn't fish. Some of them trapped, because people forget about Shantytown was a fishing, trapping,
Yeah.
hunting community, because you had the bay with the ducks, you had the muskrats, because Stan Garvasitis and Jimmy Slimp used to trap the muskrat. So it was always a hustle and a bustle place way back, when I was growing up.
Well, I was going to ask you, but you've named a lot of names. It's like, who are the most memorable people from
Oh, the most
Shantytown for you?
memorable is Chisel.
Chisel? Is that his?
Chisel.
That
And
is,
his real name was Sylvester, and I didn't know that till way later years by his daughter. And I
I
would
would
never
have gone by
call
Chisel too if my name was Sylvester, Leo.
Yeah. And Chisel, he was a Chisel too. Oh yes, tough man. You had Joe Sampson, you had Curly Miller, you had Ed Walski, you had Herbie Woodrow, Ramazan, Ed Ziemba. I'm trying to think of who
Yeah.
else. Quite a few different characters, and that were down there. And they'd be down there almost every Sunday, sitting on the porch, talking about the old days.
Yeah. And it sounds like it was also, you know, a little bit of a party place, right? Too.
Oh, late, yeah, well, more later years than it was.
Yeah.
Even though my father and them had certain parties down there, and that, like when they went ocean fishing, they have a big fish fry down there and fry up all the fish from the ocean and that. Because, like I said, the only fish I would eat out of the river is the stripers, herring, and the shad. I wouldn't eat none of the fish.
I'm going to pop in here, Leo, with a question from one of the folks on chat. And
Okay.
I know the answer sort of, so you may have to clean this one up, Leo. But
Okay. Okay.
in addition to Shantytown, why is it called the Furgary?
Why? The
There was
people
an
that
F
came,
word in that, right?
it was, I think it was the younger crowd that came afterwards.
Okay.
And they weren't that good for Shantytown because they brung so much attention down there. So I'm not going to really say what it was, but it wasn't a good thing when they called it Furgary. I mean, they say it wasn't that, but we know different. But in Hudson, anywhere you went, you would say, we're going to the Furgary. They'd be saying, what are you talking about? If you said shacks, everybody knew the shacks.
Right.
I started naming it the Shantytown because it gave it a little bit more dignant name to it. But shacks was always what it was named. You never said, I'm going to the Furgary or I'm going to Shantytown. We're going to the shacks, and everybody knew where you were going. So,
Well, let's talk about the shacks themselves.
Mhm.
You know, I've seen pictures of them in their heyday,
oh,
Leo, and it's wonderfully sort of odd structures, you know, put
oh
together
yeah.
from salvaged materials, tin ceilings, somebody's fence post is brought in, that kind of thing. What was inside the shacks? Did they have heat and electricity? They have like wood stoves in them?
No, almost everybody had, most people had wood stoves in it. And way back, most of them people had what they burned coal, because you had all the coals places down by the south front, and people just go down there and they probably pick up the coal and take it and not pay for it, and they'd bring it down there and that. But most of it was wood stoves. Almost everybody had wood stoves, which
Yeah.
made it better. And the electric, we'll go to that. The electric, everyone paid a bill down there, so that's why. And I think they got the electric through Bobby Clow, if I remember
Yeah.
right.
Worked for
And
9.
yeah, and he worked for NIMO, and I think it might be then through him or someone else, but we paid the bills. People were saying, well, we're stealing electric. Well, nobody's stealing electric. We pay our bills just like everybody else pays theirs. Yeah.
Well, so let me ask you this. Now, your dad had several shacks, right, Leo?
He had 3 of them, and he sold one to Ed Thompson, and he had the one. And then I got my family, after my father died in '84, I got my family to sell it to Johnny Stickles and Smitty and Babjack. So we got rid of that one too. And then we just had the one, which all we need. None of my family really took a lot of interest in Shantytown as much as I did. That was my heart and soul. So
So Leo, what did you do? Did you say you sold it, but like if you wanted to build a shack, you just picked a spot and did it?
no, when an outsider tried to get in one time and try to take over, I won't mention names because you can't. And yeah, then he didn't come around no more. So I guess I had nothing to do with that, because I'm not a person that's crazy like that. If you went and build one, be no problem. I don't have a problem with it.
But they were historic and they were handed down generation to
Yeah.
generation, right?
Well, most of them were handed down generation. But this is what happened when the city, this is back in the 90s, the city was going to kick us out with the lawyer and the mayor and everything. And they didn't own the land. So what they did, they drew up a piece of paper to try to get us to sign it, and we would have gave up our rights. And I talked everybody into not signing it. So we didn't sign it. We got to stay another 20 years because they didn't own it. The state owned it. I knew who owned it, but they thought they owned it, but they didn't. And that, so we got to stay extra 20 years. But then when the state and the city switched lands, that's why Hollenbeck got to kick us out, because he had the opportunity there, you know, so.
Yeah. Well, so we'll get to that. And
Oh, sorry.
I wanted to talk to you about the shacks that your dad had are still standing,
Yep,
right? Including one where you showed me the other day where the water would come out, you ride the boat right into the shack, right?
yep, yep,
And
yes.
and was that so you could unload the fish inside, or?
No, no, we always took the fish out over on the other side, because if you notice down in Shantytown, you've got 2 boat launches. You got one way over on the other end
Yeah.
and one right by the thing in that, no. So that's where we used to, and a few times when it was too low a tide where we couldn't, then we went down to we knew, well, because you know what the tides are.
Yeah.
So once you're on the river all the time. So if we knew it was going to be bad, we'd go where the boat launch is, launch down that way. So this way we could come back in, because as you notice, you can get under the bridge, but all when the tide goes out, it's all the muck and
Muck,
the
yeah.
stuff there. So you can't get up to the shanty and that. If you time it right, which that doesn't happen. So you could go up in there with the boat, but we never did do that. Yeah, we didn't.
And
do
so
that.
when you
People before us did, though.
when you said you went out in the river, you'd have to put your windshield down because that bridge is so
Yeah,
long,
well,
right?
that was my big boat. That's
Yeah.
my father. It was my father's old 16 Crestliner with the 65 horse on it. So you had to, because when the bridge comes, so you always had a time when you're out on the river, knowing when to come back. Because if it got too high, even with the windshield off, you couldn't get underneath there. That's why that's why later they called it the Tin Boat Club,
Yeah.
because everybody had tin boats, because getting in and out would be too hard with a big boat.
Okay.
So that's why,
Okay.
and that's the people named it Tin Boat besides.
Yeah.
And that when they did the tin boat thing, they did for the lawyer, so they had a name to use when they were fighting the city to stay there. They
right.
spent $70,000
Tin
to
boats
try to
are
stay
amazing.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was give me the cycle, right? So the peak of this Shantytown, would you say mid 20th century, Leo? In other words, 50s, 60s?
Yeah,
Or
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, up to 80s. Then everything just kind of fizzled out. Then it was more of a party place than it was anything else.
yeah. Did it
That's what
did
it
it
was. Yeah,
did it have to do with the fishing too, Leo?
yeah.
With the shad
Yeah,
population?
well, here's a lot of things. There was only a couple of people that came later that tried to do stuff with it, and it was Peter. And I think if I remember right, they sold. I don't know if they sold the shad, but they sold the shad roll to Kozels out there on
Ah,
9, 66 and that.
66.
And but they were about the last ones that did anything in that down there, but they didn't do a large quantity in that, so they didn't have real big nets and stuff in that to really, I think, to catch the fish in that. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so let's fast forward. I'll ask a few more questions and then we'll get to our chat questions.
Mm.
So as you said, the city owns the land. They had a land swap with the state.
Yep.
Evicted the shack owners. And
Yep.
then there was the lawsuit that you mentioned by the North Dock Tin Boat Association. And in 2015, the city council voted to demolish the shacks.
Yep.
And the State Historic Preservation Office at that time declared the site eligible for the National Register of
Yeah.
Historic
Well,
Places.
yeah.
And-
To talk about that, it was between Tim O'Connor, Carol of Gossips, and Sheena was I can't think of the name of, was for the city of Hudson and that, and she had us to make up the paperwork and send it in, and to try to make us historical, plus to get the grant also and that. So we got the grant money to be able to demolish some of the shanties.
Right, so that was what, 2017, Leo,
Mhm.
what is it, the
Yep.
Downtown Revitalization
Yep.
Initiative gave some money to stabilize, demolish. There's
Yeah.
17 shacks left, right, Leo?
Yep.
And so what would be done? What would you like to see done with that grant money?
Well, to if we had a couple different plans in that, but the historical people liked quite a few of them in that, and which is good for us in that they wrote out a paper and gave it to the city of Hudson, which ones they feel should be saved. But like I said, most things are still in the hands of the city. But the ones in the front, except for number 13 and maybe one, I don't know, because they were talking about that one too. If you get them all taken down, that opens up the bay, and the people that will be in the park that's going to be there can see the bay, and you could get to see the kingfishers, the eagles go in the bay.
Mhm. You and
They
Brenda
say,
saw
huh?
an eagle the other day, right, Leo? We were down
Yeah,
there.
oh yeah. When Brenda and us was down there, we seen the eagle, and a lot of people don't know that the other eagles, when they're young, they don't have a white head and white tail until a few years later. So, and they were all there too, and that it was I didn't have a camera, so I couldn't take no pictures and that. But once that's opened up, I think people will like it, because the ones that they think are junky and that will be gone. And
Okay.
that, I think that'll satisfy people. And like you used the word stabilize, everybody used the word restoration. We're not restoration. You're talking crazy money there. We're trying to just to stabilize them, and that's what we want to do. So,
Okay. And that one, you couldn't see it, the video I know didn't play well,
What do you
but
want?
there's
for
that
me
one
to
you
see?
talked about, Leo, that you want to do a little bit of a museum in. That was number 8. Is that right? Number 8? Leo,
the
long one?
numbers, I call it the lockbox, and that
Okay.
one would be nice. That's a newer one, but it would make it nice, because children don't, I don't hardly ever see many people fishing anymore, and the history of the river and stuff like that. People, this when we first started this, we had people that wanted to donate a lot of different things for the museum, whether they're still in the background and still want to donate. We have to see that if it ever gets to that point.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to go to the chat, Leo,
Okay,
and I'm
I'm
going to
ready.
ask you some questions from that.
Yeah.
And let me just, boy, there's quite a few questions here. It's one is, is anyone getting, working to get this on the state and national registers? And as you mentioned, there was
Yes,
an
yes,
application to the state.
yes.
And
I got the paperwork right here. Yeah.
oh, terrific.
So, and they
Um,
came down. They came down just before, I think just before winter, with the mayor and Michael and them, and they went around, and they're the ones suggested which ones that they would like to save, and the other ones they didn't care about. So
okay. Okay. How many would be saved, Leo, of the 17?
uh, they had quite a few on there. The paperwork says it, but I don't know right offhand how many in that. But
Okay.
all the ones in the front, which would open up the bay, would make it look beyond. Because
Yeah.
a friend of mine did it and took all the shanties out, and it opens up the bay. It's so much beauty, so
Yeah,
much beauty there.
spectacular.
Yeah.
You know, Leo, I think I saw in one of the documents about the Shantytown that there's only 18 places in Hudson, right, that you can see the river,
Yeah.
which is amazing for a city that's named for the river.
Yeah.
And of course, Shantytown is one of the most spectacular. You're right down on the level of the river.
Yeah.
And you were talking the other day, Leo, too. The place floods too, right? I mean, when high tide, you get some rain.
Yeah.
That's a part of the of life down there was regular flooding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. About once a year, it floods. Well, not every year. But see, that's what happened with Hollenbeck. When I talked with him, he was thinking that Shantytown was a very valuable land because people could build there and do things and that. But you can't, because you would have to raise the ground up, put them on stilts, and do all that. And because when I asked him, why don't you let us buy each shanty? And he said, no, because the land's too valuable. So
Interesting.
yeah,
And that's
there you
former
go.
Mayor Hollenbeck, right? Which
Hollenbeck. Yeah.
would be a
Yeah.
few years ago now. Yeah.
Yeah, been quite a few now.
So Leo, here's some more questions from the chat. Are you collecting items for a museum?
Yes.
What kind
Yes.
of things are you
Well, Well, we got the blocks, we got the old things that you put down in and catch minnows and stuff. We got some nets. We got not a lot of things in that, but we got a few in that. Like I said, when we first started talking about this, people that we talked to was going to donate, but we had no place to put it. You know, if they would have let us use the one building and put it in, we would have done that. But
Yeah,
yeah, but they don't allow that. So
okay. Well, I'm sure people will come forward if once you get
yeah, if
that
we can
one
get this
building.
up and running.
Exactly, exactly.
And
So
here's another, I'm going to throw this at you, I know before they say, I asked Nick Sacco, why didn't they put the NAX thing in that building there down in Shantytown? Because the city owns the land where it is now, where you put the container down there by the boat launch, by
oh,
the,
okay.
yeah, because he was going to make a NAC museum. They could have made it right there. They wouldn't have had to spend no money, opened it up, it'd be running right now.
So
It's because you
somebody
can't bring sailboats in there, Leo.
Uh,
You can't bring. It's because you can't bring sailboats under that bridge, and we do so
Oh.
much work with sailboats.
oh, I guess that's a good answer.
that makes sense.
I've answered that before, but yeah. Okay,
So-
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so Leo was talking about Everett Knack, a famous, well-known fisherman.
Oh,
Leo,
yes.
did you see him down at Shannon?
Oh, yes. He used to come down and Peter would help him off and on and do with the nets to catch the minnows, because he always came in the bay there to catch the minnows and that. Very nice. Everybody loved Knack. He was a good man.
Yeah, yeah, well-known, and you're
Oh,
right,
yeah.
everybody liked him. All right, so here's one question that says, could Leo talk about the river pollution and cleanup and how it affected the fish population and the fish activities? I've seen, Leo, sort of a bust and boom chart, you know, where the populations would come up and then they'd
Yep.
come down. What did, the pollution to the river?
There's a couple of things that we think, because remember, they cleaned up with GE and stuff. So we don't know. The river keepers say the river's dirty and the shad is no more. So you can't fish the shad no more. You can still fish the stripers and herring, but no more shad. The shad has stopped since 2010. They stopped. So you can't catch. I mean, people probably catch it and still do it, but other than that, you can't. And the population is way down, they said. And the pollution, what people don't understand, people can pollute the river because the river is such a big place. So anybody can back up with their truck with stuff and pour it in the river.
Yeah.
Because who stops them?
Right.
I met a man later years. He said he was the watcher for GE when they used to open up the thing and let the stuff spill out into the river.
Mhm.
And he said, well, I was doing my job. He said he didn't think about the pollution. No.
Right. Yeah. That was, GE had the plants upriver, way upriver. They're the ones that,
Yeah.
but I used to work for GE, full disclosure.
Yeah.
So, so
Yeah.
that many, many decades ago, but nonetheless, it was GE.
Mhm.
So Charlie Whittingham asks, give me the exact location of the Shantytowns. And Charlie, they are, Shantytown is Dock Street. So if you know where Kite's Nest is down there, and right across from it, in that North Bay area, the city's sewage treatment plant is adjacent to Shantytown. So if you go down Front Street, and you'll see it right in front of you. And this time of year, like you say, Leo, you can see right out into the river. It's such a beautiful, beautiful sight.
And once the other buildings are gone, it's going to look even more gorgeous. I always tell somebody that don't know how, I say, go all the way down to the end of Orange Street, and then you'll come to Promenade Hill, take a right and go all the way down, and you'll be at Shantytown.
Yeah.
Because most people know Orange Street because they shop and do different things there.
And the new dog park's down there too, right?
Yep.
The new
Yep.
dog park is down in that.
Yeah, Shantytown was a dog park for the longest time until they made that dog park. I was so happy when they did.
I bet.
Landmines all over the place. Yep.
I bet. So we have a question here, Leo. Thank you for this. I'm really curious to know if the shacks were related at all to the so-called houseboat houses, houseboats that were apparently relocated onto land. We have a small number of those in Athens.
Yep. There was one that they tore down, was a houseboat, and it was floated up there. Must have been with the high tide, and they put it up on railroad tides, and it was there for a long time. And Herbie Woodrow used to live in that one. See, what people kept saying before, that no one lived down there. People lived down there year round. Chisel lived down there, Joe Sansom most of the time, Ed Walsky stayed down there, Herbie Woodrow, they all lived there year round when I was growing up.
Yeah. And you pointed out to me, Leo, we were down there the other day on the island, middle ground there. There's shacks out there as well too.
Yep,
right?
and the state kicked everybody off that. They put eviction notices on all the shanties, but all the people that go, I don't go over there anymore. But all my friends that still go over there, they use their shanties. They're not worried about it. But like I said, the state don't have the money to tear them down. And then people say, well, maybe they're going to burn them down, but that'd be crazy to do that. So they left everybody alone, but they did put eviction notices on every shanty. Yep.
So here's an interesting one, Leo. The first part of the question is who owns the land itself, which is the city these days, and previously the state. But second part of the question is, would people play music in Shantytown? If so, what would they play? That is live music, Leo. Was there ever any live music down there?
Yes, yes. In TC Shack, his father and a bunch of them, I got pictures and that, and I don't know who all the people are. And they played music down there. People had the accordion, sax, what's called, yeah, they played music down there, and that. It was, like I said, it was a lot of the people that was there was very unique people that was very talented. Like Remazan was very good in paintings. Matter of fact, my brother Larry has some of his paintings that he gave to my father, and carved ducks they used to do for decoys. Very, very talented people that was down there. The old crew were a very good bunch of guys in that. Now I'm the old geezer now that's there and that, but I miss all of them because they were nice people, very nice.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
Yeah.
It sounds terrific. Here's a question, Leo, that people want you to. You're doing so well here tonight, Leo. Would you be open to do a tour of the shacks?
Yes.
You can take
Yes.
photographs.
Yes. Oh
preserve-
yes. Oh yes. To give a tour, my wife. That's why my wife is not here tonight. She says, "I hear you talk enough." but see, what people forget, that Shantytown was all part of my life. I said I got married on the boat at the boat club, and we had our reception at Shantytown because we didn't have a lot of money back then. And me and my wife been together 49 years, so it was a lot of part of my life. And then get connecting with my father, so there's a lot of great memories there. And a lot of the people that I wanted to help me, because they have a lot of good memories, like Tiffany Martin, TC, and the Mices, but nobody wants. They're mad about being kicked out of there.
Yeah. So you had your wedding reception in
Yeah, Shannontown. Yep.
that must-
And a good friend of ours made the Barbie dress, she calls it, for my wife and that, which was nice. And like I said, Jack Measton let us get married on the boat because him and my father was good friends. And we were going to do it a different way, but too many people were scared to go out on the water. So we had to stay docked at the boat club and that. So,
it sounds like a wonderful day.
oh, yes, it was.
Fantastic.
And like I told you before, most of the people that had the big fancy ones that I went to, they're none of them were together anymore. We sent each other. So I said, maybe having a cheap one was better for you. I don't know. Who knows? I know I make things.
How long have
yeah.
you been married, Leo?
Well, we've been together 49 years. We lived together for 11 years, and then we got married. Yeah.
Nice,
Yep.
nice. All right, so you're committed now to do more tours. You got to tell the wife you
Yep.
got more time. You got to do
Yep.
down at Shantytown.
Yep.
Here's one. Here's a good question, Leo. How about the bay? You know, North Bay there. Did people fish in North Bay as well as the river?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They always fished in there. Yeah.
Was it
We
always-
used to get a lot of crayfish there, there was a lot of them and that. And then when it was low tide, we used to walk up and we get the carps, and the carp we sell to people because people like
Yeah.
the carp.
Yeah.
And that's what we used to do, because up in the bay, there's pockets and they would get caught. They wouldn't go out with the tide. So we'd walk up there and we'd get the fish there. So
Okay. And is
I've
that
been-
where that wetland toward the city landfill, that capped landfill, is that where you would do the duck? Was there duck hunting up that way?
yeah, oh yeah. There was about 4, 5, maybe duck blinds there. Most of the people, I don't think duck hunt there as much anymore. I think some of them go up to the second bay, up to the second bridge, up at the end of the island across from there. And some of them go down by the Rip Van Winkle Bridge and that. I don't know if Peter and Smitty and all them still hunt in this bay that I remember and that. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, getting back to the wedding reception thing, like I got a related question sort of here, Leo. Were women welcome at Shantytown?
Yes and no. Certain times, yes, certain times, yes, and then other times, no. Then later years, everybody came down there. Everybody came down there. But probably way back when most of the fishing and hunting was, I'd say in the 40s, there was some, but not a lot. I got a picture of Mr. Turks, I think it might have been his wife, holding a snapping turtle in her hand. See, snapping turtles used to be up in the bay too. A lot of people never had turtle soup, and it's from snapping turtles. And turtle soup, if you ate it, you would say, man, that's the best soup I ever had.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, Leo, because somebody did ask earlier, did you make turtle soup?
Yes.
at the
Oh,
Shantytown?
yes. My father got the recipe from Art, and then Art said my father even made it better than him. And my wife, she's got the recipe here somewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Well, we didn't get the snapping turtles there when I was growing up. We went up to Castleton up in the bay. You had to know when the tides were, and we'd go up in the bay, and that's where we got the snapping turtles up in Castleton. We didn't get none in the North Bay and that, because I think they trapped them out. Like most places, man, always over trap places.
So that's how you know, trapping snapping turtles. That's not any fun. It seems dangerous to me, Leo.
No, here, I'm going to give you a little story of it. When you went up in the bay, you'd be walking along and you see like a circle. So the circle, was a snapping turtle down there. So you have a stick with a hook on it, metal hook on it. So you would tap it down there. And once you tapped it, you felt the shell of the turtle. So then you'd use the hook to try to pull them up out of there. And because of the suction of the turtle to the mud, you had to work to get it out. And my father always told us, do not put the snapping turtle in the burlap bag and put it over your shoulders. Drag it along, because if it bites through that, you're not going to be a happy person.
So
Nope.
would you hook the or with the
Yeah, with the hook,
Okay.
you'd hook the bottom
Okay.
of with the thing and pull it up and that. Like I said, the suction worked against you in that, but like I said, in that, and then we'd take the turtles, we'd cut the heads off, and then we nail them to the tree, because you always got to bleed things out. Like a lot of people don't know, that's the bleeding of it. And then the following day, my father and them would cut them up in that, and that's what we would have. Yeah.
Okay. So we're getting a few questions, Brenda, about
Okay.
tours, if people want to go on tours. So we'll keep the names here, and we'll put together something, Brenda, right, to connect people if they want to go on a tour. I've got 4 or
Yes.
5.
You mean you mean I didn't bore them enough now?
Not
They
yet.
want more, Leo.
No, it's great.
We want to hear more stories like the snapping turtle
Yeah.
story.
Shantytown was unique and still is unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's one. Someone asks Leo about here's my 2 questions. Why do I have the impression that there is a connection between the residents of Shantytown and the Acadians of Eastern Canada? Do you have any?
No, I never heard that.
Okay.
I didn't. I never heard that. Nope.
Okay.
And all the time I've been there and a lot of the old time, like I said, the old timers, they were already up in age. Like Ed Ziemba remembers when the island had no trees on it, when it was just a flat piece of land, which I got pictures of it without no trees on it.
That's the trees.
And he used to roll across and they used to play baseball on that flat piece of land.
Wow.
That's how long ago. But he, like I said, and he never talked about that. So if it's possible, I couldn't answer that. So,
Okay, well, here's a similar question, Leo. Do the Black residents of Hudson share in the history of Shantytown? If so, how?
no, nope. Somebody was doing a thing from Bard College and a friend of mine was down there and he came down and asked the questions. He thought that the city kicked out all the Black people out of Shantytown, and that wasn't true. I mean, Cedric Brando was part of Shantytown,
Yeah.
but other than that, no. There wasn't many, like I said, fishermen at that time down there, you know, even though people came down there because you had the Carr family, you had the Stickles family, but you had different families that would come down there. We didn't go mostly on the one side because there was somebody ornery over on that one side and would chase us children away when we were little. On the other side, where my father's shanty was, they didn't chase us away. So
Okay. So, Leo, I've got a question here about if somebody just wants to go down to the shanties now, can you just park your car and walk around or?
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You can walk around. Tiffany and me, between working with Tiffany when she was the mayor after Hollenbeck, because they voted him out because of the people, the people kind of, whatever they did. And Tiffany became, so she was Shantytown people. So she got it to open back up. After she got it back open, because I was selfish, because I wanted to still be able to go in there and walk around, by opening it up, it brought all the vandalisms in there and all the people. People would come down there. They took off the storm doors for the metal. They were stripping the metal off the shanties. I had to nail it back on, but they was just destroying it.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, here's a question, Leo, is, oh, here's someone says they want your snapping turtle recipe.
Oh, hey. Oh. And I won't charge them.
That's a good one. So, and then there's a follow-up here, Leo, on the question about the Arcadians, is that they did come south into the US looking for jobs, particularly in the mills. So, so there you go. So I want to come back, Leo, and ask you a question about what happens going forward, you know, down there. And so you have this DRI grant. It's $150,000 or so, Leo, to do some of the work we talked about.
Yes, it's enough. Well, we went and got a couple of different quotes from people. We got one from Kurt Luff that wanted to do, he was going to put the pylons in and a few of the shanties for us. We got a quote from him. And McCagg, the one that's out there by McDonald's that doing all the work there, he gave us a quote. And Frank Allard gave us a quote on the roof of my father's shanty and that. So all that came way under the 150,000, way under. So the rest of the money, like I said, when McCagg was going to tear all of them down. But the only thing he had to wait was the remediation for the asbestos and other stuff that's in the shanties, because he can't tear them down. And they wanted like $9,000 or more. I forget exactly. Tim O'Connor knows that. I don't know the price of right offhand. But with all what we had money to do everything that we needed. And that's what I'm still hoping for. But here's the thing, to me in a nutshell, before we got this grant, who was going to tear the shanties down? The city of Hudson.
Yeah.
And so why all of a sudden now they can't do it? See, this is what I would like for them to do. If they could come with that big old bulldozer, tear the ones down, have McCagg come or another people with the crane, pick all the stuff up, put it in the dumpster and take it away. That'd be an awesome thing. Then there's to be a lot of money saved right there.
Yeah.
And here, I want to throw this in here. Everybody thinks that we want to use taxpayer money. We do not. don't want to use no taxpayer money. What we're doing there is for the benefit. We got people that want to work on it. If they give us permission to stabilize them and do what we need to do. So no money is coming out of the Hudson people's pockets. That's what I want to stress immensely.
And with the grant, Leo, you would have to, if you establish a museum, you get some items in there, you'd have to have some ongoing source of funding as well too.
Funding, yeah.
Yeah. And so like, I was wondering, is it fishermen's associations, you know, sporting clubs? There's a lot of those kinds of
Mhm.
groups around. Is that something
Yeah.
that you think could be a source of funding for the?
I'm not a person that probably can do stuff like that. If we get people more that is involved in very, computerized and different things, if we can get some people to back us and help us and stuff, it would be nice. But
Okay.
see, I'm a person, it's hard. I try to do things myself to fix and do things, and I spend out of my own pocket what I can to stabilize some of them. But the point of it is that's hard. Like I feel like I'm begging people for money. So that's a little hard thing for me to want to do. If I can get somebody that want to help to do that, I would be on board. I would be on
Okay.
board.
And from the city, you mentioned about maybe they could help you do some demolition to save money.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you talked to the city about that, Leo?
No, that I haven't in that.
Okay.
Nope, I haven't talked to Rob Perry in a while, because the last time I went over there, I asked them because they kept breaking in them, and nobody was fixing on them. So I went out to Lowe's and got some ply sheets and stuff, and I had some other stuff, and then I boarded them up and that. So I felt that I was bothering the new guy. He's Ron is his name, because he took Ron Gaylord's place. Me and Ron Gaylord was very close. We're good friends. So he would, as soon as I tell him, he would have people go over there and fix it and that.
Okay.
So, but the
Yeah.
new guy doesn't really, I don't know if it has to do with him or anybody else. That I don't know. So.
Okay. So people want to be clear, Leo, so as we come toward the close here,
Yep.
about whether it's okay to walk.
Yes,
around.
yes, oh, yes. And
Okay.
you might find me down there because I go down there a lot. So, who knows?
Okay.
You know,
And we have a number of people, Leo, that would like to go on a tour with you.
oh, I would, no problem with that.
And
Tell them here's what they can do if they're still on there. Do Shantytown good memories at gmail.com.
Shantytown good memories at gmail.com.
And if you send me a thing, I'm retired, so most of the time I'm free.
Okay.
I'm a bum.
Maybe you should have your 50th relationship anniversary with your wife down there next year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can see you doing that. Yeah. I'm having something for her because she's retiring at the end of April, and that from the hospital. She's been at the hospital 36 years as a nurse. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that. Yep.
I think a Shantytown party is in the.
I could bring her down there and she'd say, "This is where you taking me." She said,
right.
we're not poor now.
Okay, and we will. Some folks, Leo, are asking about writing out that email address, and we'll make sure that everybody that's registered gets that email address.
Oh, yeah.
And then Leo, and we'll help you set up some of those tours. So that'd be a lot of fun. And I was down there the other day, and I can tell you, it's just beautiful. And of course, it just reeks of history.
Mm-hmm.
And the river, from that point of view, as you come down Front Street at this time of year, is really spectacular.
Yeah,
really beautiful.
Like I said, when people come, they can get to see a lot of different animals, birds, and you see the deer, because the deer, when the tide's out, comes across from over towards where the dog park in that area through there, come across and go up on the reefs and eat. So you get to see the deer. You get to see so much down there, so much gorgeous. So
Terrific. Well, Leo, thank you.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's been a
And
lot
everybody,
of fun.
I put people to sleep, I think.
So thank you so much for helping us do this. Thank you
Oh,
everyone for being on.
Did Brenda tell you that she'd been after me for this for quite a while?
Yes, I know you're harder to get than, like Lady
I
Gaga or
don't know.
something, Leo.
Yeah, I know. I
you're
just
you're a Hudson celebrity. We had to work through your agent to,
wait till you get the bill, then you're going to be.
I know. There you go.